I'm going to start talking and then people will just join in as I'm talking, and hopefully they won't be too confused about the fact that I'm talking, but I'm just going to go ahead and get going. So hi everybody, welcome to, sorry. Hi everyone, welcome to the 5 Under 35 panel with the Ohio University Alumni Association. My name is Arlie Walton, and I'm going to be hosting you a little bit tonight and getting us all started and then ending it when we're all finished talking. But I am currently a first-year graduate student here at Ohio University. I am working with the Ohio University Alumni Association. Oh my goodness, what a mouthful. And I am just setting up some really great homecoming events for all of you. You might have attended my trivia night on Monday. It's great to see you all again if you were. If you weren't, oh, you really missed out on some great trivia. We are planning this event tonight in partnership with Student Alumni Board. Student Alumni Board is an organization here on campus that helps get Bobcats networked with alumni Bobcats and develop their love of philanthropy and networking and all things like that. Yeah, go ahead and drop in the chat what year you graduated and where you are located now. Tonight I will have Hallie Martindale and Brent Loke. I don't know how to pronounce your name, Brent, I just realized. That are gonna be helping me ask some questions. They are two dedicated and amazing Student Alumni Board members, and we are so lucky to have them here with us tonight. They did a lot of work in planning this event, and they're both amazing. We couldn't be here without them. So, we're going to go ahead and get started by having Kile and Brent introduce themselves, and then afterwards our panelists introduce themselves a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So Kile, if you want to go first, take it off for us.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Hallie Martindale, and as Arlie said, I am SAB's VP of Alumni Engagement. I am an English junior currently with a minor in history, and I'm in the Honors Tutorial College. This is my 3rd year in SAB, so I'm very happy to be here. I hope that everyone has fun tonight and learns a thing or two from our brilliant panelists. So yeah, that's me. And thank you all so much for being here.
All right, so my name is Brent Lauk, and like Arlie said as well, I am with SAB. I'm specifically the Vice President of Professional Development. I am a 3rd year here at Ohio University, majoring in biochemistry. And I've been with SAB for, I believe, 2.5 years now. So yeah. And I'm just really excited to get to know all of the panelists. And I would like to, again, thank you all, the panelists and the attendees, so much for coming.
All right, excellent. So we're going to go ahead and go through our panelists now, and you can learn a little bit more about them. They're all amazing, and I'm so excited for all of you to get to chat with them a little bit more tonight. So Matt, if you would like to start.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Matthew Benson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of eFuse, but back in school, graduated actually last year in spring of 2019, studied in the College of Business, Entrepreneurship and Finance. And then prior to graduation, co-founded a company, which again is called eFuse, raised a few $1 million. And we've been going at this software startup for about a year now and had some really good early success. So it's a pleasure to be here and excited to be a part of this.
Cool. Me next. Trevor Brooks. I'm a global project manager for Ralph Lauren. I graduated in 2009. Did a major in marketing and pre-law, and then quickly right after that, I actually moved to New York City with the idea of starting my own apparel company. So I actually got my master's at a school here in fashion entrepreneurship. Started a menswear company where we sold luxury menswear dress shirts. Some of my friends, actually college friends, still have the shirts. So, and then from there, obviously didn't work out, or I'd be saying, you know, I was the CEO of that company. You're probably heard by now. But then I essentially went into the corporate world where I kept going into digital, where, you know, just history of my career, where I just managed a lot of large scale digital implementations, anything from just like website replatforms to back-end order management system implementations and digital marketing pieces. And actually right now I'm in the process of actually starting another company too, so which I can go through later.
It's my turn. Hi, I'm Hallie. I have not started my own company, working on But I graduated in 2019, so well, last December. So I was actually supposed to be the actual class of 2019, but I did a little half victory lap because I was a journalism student, but I decided to add pre-med my junior year, which I don't know that I would suggest. So it was definitely really fun. But now I live in Rockville, Maryland, just outside of DC, and I am a pharmaceutical sales rep for Supernus Pharmaceuticals. So we're really based in the CNS space and kind of neurological disorders and things like that. So yeah, that's me.
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren. I'm currently a business development manager at Policygenius, which is an insurance technology startup based out of New York City, but I'm currently residing in Chicago right now. Previously, I worked in the wedding and real estate industries, so you can kind of say I'm passionate about improving the customer journey during life's biggest moments, whether you're getting married, buying a house, or protecting those assets. So I graduated from Ohio University in 2016 with a degree in journalism. And I actually played on the women's golf team while I was there, which took up a lot of my time. And I recently just graduated from a 6-month data analytics class from Columbia.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Salemi. I'm an '08 grad and my degree was in marketing business pre-law with a minor in Spanish. So I did study abroad, which was great. And now I run my own agency. So I'm the founder and CEO of Blue Noda LLC. And while it's based in Cleveland, I erected it while I was still in New York. Then the pandemic hit, and I think we're all in the same boat that this has been a wild and crazy year. When asked what my location is, I do ironically put digital nomad because I'll be moving and having a couple places where I get to bop around to, which is lovely, and hence why I love this field. And I think that would be it for me.
All right, great. Well, it's great to meet all of you. We're going to go ahead and get started with our questions. So, Kile, I believe you have our first question, and if you want to take it from here.
Alrighty, sounds good. So sort of continuing with our introductions, we would like you all to each tell us a bit more about yourself. We'd like to learn a bit about your major in college, your current career and aspirations, where you're from, and when you graduated from your undergraduate alma mater. So take it away.
Yeah, so a little bit more detail. So born and raised in Chillicothe, so not far from Athens, currently living in Columbus, Ohio. But for me, grew up always knowing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and do my own thing. Didn't necessarily know what that would look like growing up, but always had a couple different passions, one of which being technology and software, and then one of which being video games, ironically enough. So grow up playing video games and never any damn good, but always had the passion for it. And ironically, when I was at OU, through Cluster, which I'm sure the College of Business majors are familiar with, our industry that we were given was esports and gaming. So through that semester-long experience, as everyone knows, developed this 180-page report, which ultimately formulates into our current company, eFuse. So at a high level, eFuse is a social network. Some call us the LinkedIn for gamers, where we help take gamers, connect them to opportunities, things like scholarships, jobs, internships, and team openings, and also connect them to one another. So we fundraised after I graduated, and actually I started fundraising prior to graduation in 2018. Did that and raised $2.3 million, launched this company, built out a team. We've now got 20 people working for us. We've got 500,000 people that have signed up since January, and we've generated a couple $1 million in revenue. So we've been rolling with that. But I think my quick background, again, didn't understand or didn't know that gaming would be my path, kind of fell into it. And luckily through some experiences at OU, it's been really fortunate to help build our business. But again, my major was entrepreneurship and finance, which fits in really well with what I'm currently doing. And then graduated in the spring of last year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome success, Matt. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I was graduated 2009, majored in marketing pre-law. It's interesting. I don't even do anything what I actually used to major in, so which is kind of an odd. But I kind of got the entrepreneurship bug too, like Matt did, and that's essentially why I moved to New York City. Obviously went through already, one failed business, and then got into the digital corporate world where the reason why I did that basically was I was kind of looking at the landscape after studying for about a few years and actually being in it, that there's, companies are going to really invest in that. So that's really what I've been spending a lot of time and like really want to put my niche and my focus on. And so far it's worked for me. I've been very lucky, especially during these times where I still have been having a paying job too. So, but the entrepreneurship bug does not, fade away. So during this, this time during the pandemic, and I'm actually still in New York City. I've been here for a little over around 10 years now. So I think that's what they consider New Yorkers. So, but I still have a lot of roots back in Ohio. So all my family's there. I actually have a younger brother that goes to OU now. But I'm actually from Columbia Station, which is a small town outside of Cleveland. So still miss the family and everything. So, but one thing, and I'll backtracking a little bit, but what I'm looking at now is taking a look at the landscape. Kind of a big advocate of the environment and trying to make a positive impact. And being in apparel for the past 10 or 11 years, I kind of noticed and started studying basically how much waste the apparel industry and consumers make. So my idea was essentially create products, sell basics, starting with menswear, such as like underwear, socks, and t-shirts, that are made out of recycled materials, whether it be plastic bottles or old fabric that was thrown away, with factories that are made that using sustainable practices. And then kind of the flip side of that is reducing the amount of waste that's actually inside for landfills. And then people are able to send it back and we're actually able to easily recycle it for them. Because I know like anybody else, if I got a hole in my socks or shirt, I'm just throwing it away. So the idea is to avoid that and actually give it an easy path for, consumers, customers, normal people, is just to send it back and actually put it back and keep it out of the landfill. So, so that's why I'm still at a company in Ralph Lauren. I still have a passion for apparel and fashion. So.
Okay. So like I said, well, first of all, that was very interesting. Don't know how I'll follow that, but like I said, I graduated in 2019. So I'm originally from basically a cornfield in Indiana. And then I moved to Florida. And so when it would get cold in the winter at OU, I would go home to the beach and that was my break. And so when I graduated, I don't think I really had a plan. I always wanted to be either a physician or a journalist. And I didn't know that you could kind of put those two together. So after I graduated, I kind of just freaked out a little bit. And then I started looking into medical device sales and pharmaceutical sales. And I realized that that was really like kind of the perfect marriage between the two things that I was really passionate about. And then I got a call out of nowhere about a job in Rockville, Maryland, where I have never been until now. And lo and behold, I actually ended up getting a job in the middle of a pandemic, which I feel very blessed that that happened to me. And I've been working here for about a month now, just a little over a month. And so it's definitely been really great. I grew up in a family with my dad and my sister both had disabilities. So I knew that whatever I did, I wanted to be able to help families like mine and siblings and parents like mine. And so that's definitely really driven me because I know that as a pharmaceutical sales rep, I don't speak directly to patients, but I know that I'm interacting with the providers that do. And so that's been something I've been really passionate about. And I definitely would not have been able to do that without all of the different mentors and professors and friends who really helped push me when I was at OU. So yeah.
So I'm originally from Medina, Ohio, and I actually didn't apply to any other school besides Ohio University, mainly because I was going to play golf. My dad actually picked my major. I had no idea really what I was getting myself into other than I knew I was going to play a lot of golf while I was there. But upon graduation, I was actually I was a journalism major, but taking some sales classes at the end of the day, and it was kind of interesting. Professors on the business side said, you know, you've got to save, you got to build a 401k, and then journalism majors were like, yeah, definitely go to New York City, you can make money, you know, follow your passion, whatever. I ended up listening to the journalism professors, but did invest in my 401k as well, like the sales professors said, and started my career in New York at Kleinfeld Bridal, which is TLC's Say Yes to the Dress. And that was a super, super fun experience, but I kind of knew I wasn't always going to work in the wedding industry. It's fun, but we've seen what has happened to today's brides. And so I've ventured into real estate and have now found a very safe kind of recession-proof industry in insurance. And while it's kind of boring, to some, I actually absolutely love it. So that's kind of where I'm hoping to stay.
All right, so this is kind of neat. I feel like I'm connected to everybody. Matt, I'm obsessed with gaming. Trevor, as soon as I went to Indonesia in my 20s, I was like, oh my gosh, the planet needs saving immediately. And I ran a golf course, Lauren. And then Hallie, my brother actually with special needs with disabilities. So we're all connected. Oh, I feel we're going to open this up and start getting emotional. But let's see, I graduated in '08. So I feel everybody's, I feel you're, if you're a little scared and unsure of being a new grad in this turbulent space, because in '08, as you all know, it was an economic crisis. And so I came out with a marketing degree and there were really no jobs. And if there were, I wasn't going to take them. It was like door-to-door sales and pyramid schemes. So I was the quintessential boomerang kid that went back to Cleveland. And then I bartended downtown and got half of my master's degree from Cleveland State. And then I had an opportunity to run the family business. So on my father's side, it's a long line of entrepreneurs, and that was a golf course. So I ran a golf course at 22 for 8 years, and it turned into a wedding facility, a restaurant, and then we were opening a few other things. And before you knew it, I think I just got burnt out, and I missed marketing. And I was doing the marketing, very grassroots, traditional marketing, and building websites too for the other businesses we run. So anyway, I digress. I left there and I said, I want to get back into digital. So then I went to a boutique agency and I ran some web design projects and a little bit of digital marketing, and then moved to Boston where I connected it with higher and continuing education. And I ran Harvard and BU's kind of very intricate email automation systems and kind of connecting that with their PPC and display. And then from there, I went to New York, and that was all content and SEO. I'm kind of an SEO nerd. I like tinkering with things and experimenting. I used to watch the X-Files, which is definitely going to show my age, but I always say we're all, trying to figure out what the smoking man is telling us when it comes to Google's algorithm. And now I'm super nerdy to everybody watching this. So then I went into AI and worked for an Israeli company in artificial intelligence. And then I said, you know what? No matter where I was on the agency side, and I don't know if my fellow alum have been in marketing agencies at some point, but there's a lot of chaos to it. And it's a business model that I believe is broken and should be changed. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my own company, with more of a remote collaborative. While remote lifestyle is new to some because of the pandemic, it has been my life for quite some time. And I won't bore everybody with the model, but that's where the passion kind of drove me. And also when I was in Boston, I was kind of consulting for myself, and working for yourself is, while scary and one of the most difficult things in the world, can be quite fruitful. So there we go.
All right, great. That was so excellent to hear about all of you, and it was so interesting. So for the next question, who impacted your career development the most throughout your time since leaving undergraduate school? And so this could be examples such as employers, coworkers, or even speakers that you may have encountered after leaving OU.
Yeah, so from my end, I actually would say there's two. So one of which is a professor at OU. Some of you may know Paul Benedict. He's with the Center for Entrepreneurship, actually just became the head there. Paul was a great mentor to me while I was in school. I really appreciate it. And I think this is unique in many ways to OU. Somebody that's actually been there and done that and built a business and sold it was super interesting and fascinating for me. So immediately gravitated towards Paul. And he was actually, when I came on my student visit, he was the one that convinced me to come initially. So kind of stayed with Paul all throughout undergrad, learned a lot from him. He got me to be honest, some great internships I learned a ton from. And then ultimately he kind of gave me the courage to jump ship and found eFuse, not really knowing what the hell I was doing. So jump ship, did it. Things have worked out so far so good. And Paul continues to be one of those people when I'm in the hardest of pinches and I have no idea what I want to do, what the right decision is. He's one of the first ones I call as sort of an advisory council. And then second is another alumni by a guy by the name of David Pidwell, who is out in Silicon Valley. He's had multiple exits from a venture perspective. He's served on the board of trustees for a number of years. I'm not sure if he's still on or not, but somebody else who's alumni, who's been there with me from undergraduate all the way through and has provided a lot of insight and experience. And those two have really groomed me in many ways. So those are two great examples for me.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a myriad amount of people actually help me throughout my career, but and it's changed from each phase, whether it's been schooling in New York, entrepreneur, or working at Aeropostale to Ralph Lauren today. But I would say the people that have been really consistent throughout my life that have essentially kept me grounded, and I think that's very important to stay grounded, are my family, but specifically my mom and stepdad. Just going through whether it's work, whether it's trying to figure out how you're gonna get your next meal, especially living off a very low salary in New York City, especially when your rents are about $2,000 to $3,000. You're making about $36K, and that's really the money that you're personally driving in, whether it's investments. You can really go through some challenges as far as mentally, even physically too. So sure, I mean, I have a lot of the business colleagues that I had, but it was really them that kind of pushed me through it too, and especially through a lot of the difficult times through everyday life, whether it's trying to deal with specific types of people. Obviously I would go to one for one reason, the other for another reason. So but all in all, I mean, I got to contribute a lot to them, just the fact that they kind of kept me grounded, also kept me focused on what's really important, and it's essentially what makes you happy and what's your passion.
So I would say there are a lot of people that I've been really fortunate to have mentor me in my life, but I would say the one that really sticks out to me is a physician that I actually interned for. His name is Dr. Clausen, and I interned for him. I was a research intern the summer before my senior year, so 2018, at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And I was working in a neurology lab because I knew that whatever I did, I wanted to help patients, like I said before. And so in that aspect, I was working with patients who had Parkinson's disease or Huntington's disease, Alzheimer's, you name it, any movement disorder. Those are the patients that we really worked with. And so he really kind of just gave me free rein within what he could let me do. And I really got to interact with patients and see just what an impact I could have, even if I wasn't working with them directly, just by working with the people who were working with them directly. And he's just been someone that I've reached out to countless times, every single time that I've changed my mind about the trajectory of my life and my career. He's always been there and really been someone that I can look to for advice. And then the other person would definitely be, I was a waitress after I graduated. I was kind of in limbo, and I knew that I didn't just want to wait for my career, but I needed to kind of make some money in the meantime. So I started working at this restaurant. It was a sports bar, a Philly bar in Florida. And my boss was from Philly, and he was just a very, he tells you the way it is. And so I worked with him all day, every day. And he was very straight up with me, and he would tell me when I was doing something wrong, and he would tell me what I needed to do to fix it. And he actually ended up being like my best friend. I always tell people my best friend is a 58, well, he's 59 now, a 59-year-old bald man. So I would definitely say he was probably the second person that really changed my life and blessed me. And it was a very unexpected blessing. But he really came in out of nowhere and was sort of like a father figure to me, and really encouraged me to follow my dreams. And so, yeah, both of them check in frequently and remind me that I can do things that I don't think I can do. So yeah, definitely appreciative for that.
So I've actually had and worked at 4 different companies in the past 4 years, which seems like a lot to some people. Not everyone, is going to bounce around, I think, that much. However, it means for me, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of different people, very talented people. And so I actually got some advice that I've really taken to heart, which was to create your own personal board of directors. So it's hard to pinpoint one because I have a couple of people I think in my network that I've kept, my first manager at Kleinfeld, my dad, a fellow Scripps alum, and all of these people kind of, become sources that I can tap into. They're kind of specialized in that way for different areas and vice versa. So that's kind of something that I've always that's helped me.
A few people come to mind, and really they were just kind of passerbys. A couple old guys at the golf course, regulars that used to pop by and see how stressed out I was and contemplating how to balance my life. The first guy said, Andrea, success is when you can walk away from it. And that was very true. That was the first time I learned that you can trust people, and delegation is part of any management role. And that's a process in itself. Common sense is not so common. And that's what's helped me not get so frustrated. I think sometimes you'll find yourself in a lot of predicaments where you're communicating one thing and the person's just hearing another. This can be tasked in project management or even spoken to. I've worked with a lot of global teams, and everything is it's a dance, it's a nuance in how they communicate and how they receive. And I guess, and I know these sound more like philosophical than business. The one person that comes to mind though was my first agency job, and I was coming into an environment without any operations whatsoever and never having done, regimented web design. So there was no one teaching. And there will be a handful of folks watching this that will find themselves in this arena where they're asking questions, but everyone's very busy and very frustrated that you're even asking questions, and you're left to say, well, why am I even here? I came here to learn and do the best job that I can. And an operations manager was finally at the end hired, and she said, Andrea, if you come to a job and you're just unhappy every day and you're doing 100%, and I was, educating myself to certifications and starting to kind of put together the pieces and creating my own process. And as you elevate and educate yourself, you bring more perspective. And by the end of it, when Jen said, she said, this is just not, you have to figure out if this is the place for you, right? Eventually your intuition and your upset will get to a point where you'll say, is this really the environment that breeds the most growth out of me? And that was pivotal in where I went from there, and the jobs that I chose and the questions that I asked to disqualify the positions and jobs and cultures that I didn't want to be in. So that would be it.
Wow, this is a great reminder that you truly don't get to where you are on your own. So thank you all for sharing your stories of who got you to where you are. You were all amazing. My next question for you all is, what points do you keep on your resume to make you stand out when sharing this document with others? So Mr. Benson, if you're ready, you can start us off.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I don't do resumes very well. I haven't updated mine since sophomore year of college. However, I will say, I guess one piece of advice that I've thought a lot about, and I think was super true for me, is really invest in the relationships and don't make them about transactions. So when you're talking to alumni, when you're looking for the next job, when you're looking for a mentor, that personal board of advisors, I would also reemphasize that's a great idea. Be really focused on building the relationship and don't go to somebody just when you need them. That for me has paid off both in the people we've been able to hire, the people that have invested money into us, and then even just our business relationships. It's more about building a relationship than it is a transaction. So sorry, I don't have any bullet points for the resume, but that's been something that's been useful for me.
Yeah, so I'd look at resumes and, obviously update myself. So I would say the biggest things I highlight on there as you get more experience, you've got to start, shrinking down the bullet points from older jobs. But the big things I keep on there are things where I show examples of leading teams and not necessarily just leading them, but also cross-functional, where you're more about the breadth of it, working with different resources. So like I'm in digital project management, so it could be working with last project I had was like working with different regions where it's working with the Club Monaco representative to Ralph Lauren North America, to Ralph Lauren Europe, to Ralph Lauren APAC. It's really seeing that and seeing how much you've actually managed and how you led that. But more importantly, what was the result of that? If it's a project, and I'm talking numbers, like if it was a project, was it actually was a project, was the deadline hit? If it wasn't hit, how late was it and why? And what was the result? And then if it's a more business focused, because I've worked as a product manager too as well. How much of your products, what product did you develop and what was your ROI on that? So at the end of the day, it really comes down to effort and then what the revenue is driven. I know we employ a lot of test and learn, agile methodology. I mean, some people might know what that is, but the idea there is to make sure you're developing products and projects, in this case for the customer, and what really drives that is your ROI. So a lot of things I can say is, when you're looking at your own resume, whether you're part of some organization, there is, it doesn't mean to have to be, that large. It could be a fraternity, or your recruitment chair. What did you implement that was new? Who did you have to work with? How did you lead them? And then what was the end result of that? So it could be an increased recruitment process, from 5 to 15 guys. I mean, that's success. That's something I think employers, and I know out of the gate, will actually looking for somebody fresh out of college. And even when I go through my interviews too as well, that's also something that that I'm communicating. I think get asked by a lot is, oh, great, I'm glad you did that project, but there are a lot of other people that have new projects and deliver products. Why was your idea so good? I'll tell you why it was so good, because it delivered X, Y, and Z percentage increase for conversion rate, or it drove, revenue by this amount. So, yeah, so I mean, that's a big thing. And even when you're scanning a resume, numbers really do stand out. So, and that's another big point I'd actually, add into. It's like, it's not necessarily what's in there, but maybe the aesthetic of it as well. Like, oh, plus 5.6%. What is this all about? So, recruiters, people that are actually looking to, even hire manager looking to hire people, they really do look at this stuff. I mean, I know I do, and I know when I go and talk to other friends of recruiters do look at those kind of things. At the end of the day, it's a business, and they need to worry about their bottom line. And in order to do that, they need to drive revenue, or they need to cut the costs. So that's, anyways.
So that was really good advice. I think my advice for your resume is a little bit cheesier and not as technical. But I actually pulled up, so I was really excited to finally get like a professional email signature, so that, I don't know, it was colorful and people knew what I was like. It was my personality. And I actually added a quote to it, which is really cheesy, but I think it definitely, it'll I have at the bottom of my professional signature, is by Mother Teresa, and it says, "Spread love everywhere you come to you without leaving happier." And I know that when you're talking about a resume, it's supposed to be very professional and like, this is, very concrete. This is what I did. And I think that one thing that I've really tried to do every time oh my gosh, I love that you have that quote. Sorry, I'm like reading the comments at the same time. one of the things that I really tried to be intentional about is when I create a resume, I want people to know there's more to me than just this piece of paper. And so with everything that I put on that resume, every bullet point, I really want whoever's reading it to be able to see the difference that I hopefully made in that position or that job, whatever I was doing. And so I think being able to really verbalize, write down not just what you did, but what difference it made. And hopefully, you know, when you leave that position that you put on your resume, you can, you know, say that maybe you made it better. You left it a little bit better than you found it. So that's my advice. A little bit cheesy, but that's my advice.
I'm gonna have to echo Trevor here. I think for me personally, and I think it just depends on the industry you're in, but it's come down to stats. So pretty much every bullet I think on my resume as completed X to achieve Y, which drove Z impact. I think tying it back to that overall larger company goal is something that can really differentiate you, especially if you're applying to you know, a lot of big tech companies. But I also love the quote. I might definitely have to make mine a little bit more personal, Hallie.
So I've gotten really quite good at resumes over time, and hopefully never have to create one again and with Matthew. But actually when Jared Robb, who's on here, who works with me for social media support, we actually connected. And it was about resumes. And he's we were discussing how we could go so many ways in digital. We could go design-wise or project management, digital strategy, analytics. I mean, these are left brain, right brain. And then the people that we're targeting would probably visually look for something different. So we did multivariate tests, right? An A/B test. It came back pretty succinct to what you would guess. The design aspect, or vertical, likes the designed out, like very fancy resume that I never had because I'm not very creative. So, and the one that I told him, the more boring one, would probably have more opens as it concerned analytics and digital strategy roles or coordinator roles. But I will add to all of the great advice that's been given, and I echo it as well. But from an SEO standpoint, right, because we're actually submitting our resumes online into search engines, technically, if you have keywords that are going to mimic or have a symbiotic relationship to the job title in which you're applying to, right? So digital coordinator, if digital coordinator is not laced within your resume, it's not going to pick up as a match within their engine, depending on where you're applying to. So this is true of LinkedIn, Amazon Jobs, Google Jobs. So just keep that in mind. Keywords are definitely going to help you at least get that open rate. And yeah, and I like the personal touch. I got my job in New York just on a fluke. I was in Brooklyn and sent out 2, and I had more of a funky resume that was like, this is who I am, and take it or leave it. And luckily that was the culture that I attracted. So it was a good thing. There you go.
So that's great. So like I mentioned, I was Vice President of Professional Development for SAB. So it's kind of nerdy, but I love geeking out about resumes. And I look forward to implementing some of your advice in my own resumes, as well as other students, and trying to help other students implement it as well. It's really exciting for me. But looking to our next question, why did you decide to take the path that you did? And to kind of elaborate, why did you feel that applying to graduate school or that entering the workforce was the best option for you personally?
Yeah, so for me, I knew pretty early on that I wanted to build something, build a company. Didn't know, again, what that would look like. But it was actually, and the reason I kind of jumped ship so early is I was fortunate to have some really great internships where I went and I learned a lot, but I also learned really quickly that I don't do well with having bosses, and that's probably a good and a bad thing for sure. But really, just decided to take the leap of faith and didn't even know what the role would look like. We didn't have a company. We didn't really have money at the time, but it was always just something that I knew I wanted to do and knew I wanted to build a company, and there's no better time than the present. So I decided to take the leap.
Yeah, definitely a scary leap, Matt, that's for sure. Kudos to you too. I don't know if anybody likes really having a boss, but let's see. Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of started like we said earlier, but I moved to New York City with the whole big dream, making it, the whole it's like if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Yeah, whatever. But so I went to I did both actually, and I went to school to get my MBA at a private college here, started entrepreneurship. I didn't work out. Oh, and this is not one of my shirts either from the previous company either. So I do gotta say it as Ralph. So I gotta support the other company. So but yeah, then I went to moved into digital. The reason why I did that was, since it was a digital e-commerce company, I actually kind of fell in love with the idea. I mean, I think digital is pretty cool. Plus, it was like a new wave. And I didn't even study it in school at all. So, and then, and I was kind of just on the like managing the web store piece of it. But as I really got more into it, I really started to like more of the technical pieces of it because you have a digital business. I mean, digital is covers so much. I mean, it's very, very broad. But I was more really passionate about the digital technology piece within the spaces of apparel. And that's really when you get into the weeds of it, where you're actually working with the software, trying to stand up websites, trying to stand up servers, whether or not, and trying to understand the different flows and processes. And, talking with Andrea, is like, I definitely nerd out on a lot of this stuff too. So I remember taking front end coding classes. It's like, I really want to see what's going on in the background. So, yeah, and I've fell in love with it ever since, but obviously, it's been years and I'm still doing it today. And obviously the one thing that's still true passion about is still, still don't like having a boss. So that's why I want to go off my own too, to do, start the own company again. So.
Yeah, so I think for me, if you would have asked me a few years ago what I thought I would be doing today, I probably would have told you that I thought I would be in med school. So I don't know, just growing up, I always wanted to be either a journalist or a physician. And I really couldn't figure out how to put those two together. I didn't think it was possible. And I actually had a friend who is also an OU alumna, and she graduated the year I was supposed to graduate. And she had told me about, I just remember sitting in a coffee shop with her. We were in Brennan's, and she was telling me about this job that she had found. And it was a medical device position where she really got to do all the fun science stuff, but it was like the glamour of being a doctor, but you don't have to worry about malpractice insurance and all that good stuff. So, and you don't have to go to med school. And I was like, wow, that sounds really, and you really get to communicate with people. And that's what I was really passionate about. And so it kind of like planted a little seed for me. And so after I graduated and I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I kind of remembered what she had said, and she texted me and kind of checked in on me. And I was like, wait, you are doing my like absolute dream job. And so that's when I kind of started to look into potentially pursuing pharmaceutical sales. And so, yeah, it's weird how it all fell together, especially in the midst of a pandemic. But I flew up here for the first time. COVID like really happened. And so everything fell together absolutely perfectly. And I definitely couldn't have planned it. But it was just nice to know that you don't have to settle for one or the other, but you can actually pretty much always figure out a way to find a marriage of the multiple things that you're really passionate about.
So I immediately entered the workforce because I really had no idea of what I wanted to do, but knew I'm a kinetic learner, so I figured I'll just roll up my sleeves and start getting some experience. My main goal being young in my career is just to be constantly learning and surrounding myself with driven, talented people. I actually constantly read, I'm like almost crazy, but I read a lot of job descriptions because I think having a pulse on what your industry is doing. I actually even look at, other, different types of jobs, engineering jobs. I'm always wondering, what are people looking for? For me, it became like very apparent marketing jobs were becoming analyst jobs. So that's why I actually took a 6-month boot camp at Columbia. It was 3 days a week for 4 hours at a time while I was working full time. But I think, you can do a lot to upskill, whether it's General Assembly, BrainStation, YouTube. I think just always having that, keen sense of what the market is looking for is very important.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
Sorry, I was just so enthralled by everyone. What's the question one more time, just so I, one more time. Where are we at, Arlie?
Yeah, no problem. So the question is why did you decide to take the path that you did? So to elaborate on that, why did you feel that applying to graduate school or that entering the workforce right away was the best option for you personally?
Okay. I'm not going to lie, Hallie, when you said Brennan's, I like choked. I used to work at Brennan's and I used to rock that smoothie bar. So I was like, and then I started going off in La La Land over here. Okay. So anyway, why did I choose the path? I wish I could be suave and say that I did. I chose it. No, I just, it was there. I had no job options and it just felt like a master's degree was the next step. I fought tooth and nail not to work for my dad's business. But I'm going to tell you what, as it concerns digital marketing and only digital marketing, because I can't speak for the other industries, I'm so happy I didn't continue with the master's. And I know that sounds terrible right now, but it's because of the way or the nature of it. Let's fast forward, right? I leave the golf course. Now I'm thrust into an agency and I'm trying to catch up to all of these. It's a very fast industry, right? So I'm taking analytics courses and I'm all up in that HubSpot certification, but it's still not registering. It's because you have to apply. And with digital strategy specifically, you have to take it in pieces or else it's extremely overwhelming. And you're not understanding how it all breeds together to create like a full-on multi-channel, or if you're an omni-channel, it's just a lot. So I really do believe in the certifications that I think Google's launching today. HubSpot's a great place, but that's for content marketing. And then you have search engine land for SEO. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I think Jared and I spoke about this, and I like point to Jared like he's living in the chat there, but you guys are at a really great position, but it's also probably overwhelming if you're seeking digital marketing, because now the question is, what do you want to specialize in? And that's not fair to you because you haven't had a chance to understand all of the pieces. So agencies are a great place to start, dabbling in some reading just to understand what each job description would entail. Should you kind of, let's say you like SEO, you think you like SEO, you go that route a little bit, you can pivot, you could go off to something different. You could be like me and be a jack of all trades and specialize in none because you enjoy growth marketing. But where I'm going with this is that a master's degree at this juncture is not going to give you that breadth of experience, knowledge, and application that I think you deserve right now. So there we go. Sorry, continuing, Ed.
All right. Well, I'm glad we have such a diverse set of perspectives. I really should be writing all this down. You guys are all so amazing. Wow. So on to our next question, which is, what experiences did you encounter upon entering the workforce that further guided your career? So whenever you guys are ready, you can start.
Yeah, so I think there were 3 really key lessons that I learned pretty early on when jumping into this thing. The first of which is startups, and more broadly, I'm sure this is probably the same in the corporate world as well, but there's some of the highest highs and some of the lowest lows. And at some point, you've got to be really good at riding the wave and kind of mellowing out, especially in the startup world. There's a lot of wins, there's a lot of losses, and you've got to be willing to take those on the chin and keep moving forward. So that was one thing that was painful early on, but I'm glad I learned. Second is valuing a team that is great at feedback. Being great at feedback is build some of the best products, build some of the best culture. And if you're not good at taking feedback, you can't be great at giving feedback. So that was another thing that learned. And then finally, people are very, very different. There are a lot of different people from all over the world, all different socioeconomic backgrounds. all different types of cultures, and being willing to learn, invest in them, and understand them is crucial, especially when you're in a team setting, to be able to get the most out of them, but then also enabling them to get the most out of you and really building that culture. So those are just a few lessons early on that I had learned.
Yeah, so I mean, I learned a few, but I would say that I learned a few lessons over the years, but I'd say one of some more that are more applicable now is to, I guess, listen first. I know, especially when you're dealing with different cultures. I know Americans can be a little sometimes over aggressive when it comes to communication and just want to get their voice heard. Versus if we're working from somebody in Europe, it's not so much. So I think it's important to listen first and be aware that, the cultural differences that you may have. I guess another piece would be, this is going to sound very cliche, but I mean, don't be afraid to ask questions. I know being in a meeting room with, different VPs and sometimes, executive stakeholders, you might be a little, nervous to, answer a question, or even if it's a sales meeting too. But most of the time, especially if you've done your research and you're prepared, you're asking a question everybody else is thinking too, and you're actually bringing to the surface an answer that should be answered during the process of that. I know I've done that many times, even missed chances too as well, where I didn't ask the question, and next thing you know, it's something your CEO actually asked a question about that you should have, put you in a good light too with that if you want to get visibility. Also too, I think Andrea actually mentioned this earlier, was just learn to delegate. I know earlier in your career, you may want to hit the ground running, and I think that's good, especially if you really want to make an impact and try to learn to be indispensable at your company. But at some point, you're gonna, and if you really are aspirational and ambitious, you're gonna have so much on your plate that you're not gonna have time to be able to sleep. So I think it's important to be able to learn to delegate and learn and understand what's urgent and what's not urgent, what's important, and what if it's not important, not urgent, then give it to somebody else. So, because you can get everything done, you just need, you might need the help to get it done. So, and actually, I'll add one more thing too. It's also learn to say no. I think a lot of people, especially in professional life, they want to impress, but you really have to focus on the top, the 20% of the things you can actually get done. That's going to give you 80% get you 80% of the way there. I mean, it's standard principle, Pareto principle, but that being said, you're going to say no to a lot more things. You're going to say yes. And what that allows you to do is allows you to focus on the important things. At the end of the day, you're really great at getting graded on from your customers and your manager too, as well. And your, the people you may manage based on those things that you execute. So, that's, and the last piece, so those are probably the last piece of advice that I, give, my, also manage, also, so my brother, and also myself, so.
Yeah, so I think for me, since I have only been in this part of my career for about a month now, I have learned a lot, but there was something that a mentor had said to me before, like literally a few days before I moved to Rockville. And that was, and he had been in the industry, so I really kind of took his words as gold. He told me that for the first 6 months in whatever job you're in, no matter what position it is, do everything you can to just work as hard as you possibly can. Because if you really, if you're putting in the work and you're showing up and you're doing the best that you possibly can, you're really setting yourself up for success, one, and two, you're really making, when you start a new job, you have the opportunity to really make a reputation for yourself. And so if you're willing to do that and for your entire career, you should work really hard. But I think just setting that standard for yourself and for everyone else in that first 6 months, it really makes people believe in you. And if you do happen to mess up 7 months down the line, they're going to be like, no, it was okay. Like, they're a really hard worker and they would never do that on purpose. And so I think, just setting a standard for yourself and for everyone else is definitely really important. And that's really helped me. But another thing that has really kind of shifted my mindset in the workforce is that I am my greatest competition, and that even though sales is definitely a really competitive industry, at the end of the day, I'm basically trying to beat myself yesterday. And so I think just having that understanding that you can always do better, you always have something to learn, there's always something to improve on, is definitely really powerful. And I think that has enabled me to want to work harder and do everything I can to hopefully help physicians help patients. So yeah.
I love that. That's great advice. So mine is twofold. So I think for me it was like learning my working style and just really owning it. For example, at Policygenius, something that the company like prides itself on, we all take Myers-Briggs personality tests, and there's a Google sheet of everyone, whatever team you're on, and basically it's helpful to know not only how your own personality works, but how to work with others that have very varying personalities and differences. And the second is just kind of me being a realist here, but you've really got to know your worth. So kind of a little braggy stuff, but I've more than doubled my salary in 4 years since graduating through upskilling, networking, attending conferences, and a lot of salary negotiating. And I think people can end up tending to shy away from the reality that you've got to pay your rent, pay off student loans, start that 401k. So do your research and do not be afraid to negotiate.
I love that one. I was going to say that too. Know your value, and don't be afraid to have a very pointed and educated conversation with your superior if you've been working for a certain amount of time and you come with numbers and statistics, because if you know you're good enough, they will match. And if they don't, then it's time to move on and you have your answer. It's simple, right, with those. It's easier said now. I think that we're along with our career, and it's very scary the first time you do it, but definitely know your value, especially when you stay in that job. I had another one. I'm sorry, you guys. Everybody had, I would cross over. So I was trying to kind of shift because I think we're all in alignment with our advice and what kind of drove us. Some other ones I would say is be in tune with your own personal health and what you need, especially in this stage of your career. You will be working a lot of hours, but find enjoyment in those moments, because I still think about just working till 9 o'clock at night with my team and cracking open a bottle of bourbon and just getting after it. But you know what, it was fun. And if you find teams, like team members that you really jive with, you will enjoy what you're doing, even if you're working for 30, 40, 60 in New York. It's a moment in life that it's special, even if it's hard. And if you're not enjoying it, definitely go back to what I said earlier and give that reflection and say, how long do I need to be here to get what I need out of it, to get educated, to get the job title check, and then find what culture is best for me. So staying in tune with your health too would also just expand into, I'm a Cancer Gemini. I don't even know what that means, but someone told me in New York it's not great for emotional stability. So, and being a project manager and a team leader, you take on a lot of people's problems, and you're listening and you're negotiating and you're accountable for everything, and eventually you will break. So you have to know when those breaking points are coming to say, I'm going to take a personal day, or I'm going to work remote. If you anticipate these, then you get to have that moment with yourself, so that you're not losing it at work or crying in a bathroom or whatever happens there. So yeah, be in tune with yourself and enjoy these crazy moments that you're about to have. There you go.
That was such beautiful advice. Like, I feel like everything that all of you have said tonight has really just centered me and made me feel very blessed to just be listening to all of you speak. So we did have one more question, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time because it has been an hour, but I literally could listen to all 5 of you talk probably like all day long. You're all amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so appreciative of this time. Like I said, Athens misses you. I'm so lucky to have gotten to know you. If you have any questions or anything after this, feel free to shoot me an email. Like I said, I'm so happy that everybody was here, especially all of our amazing attendees, that I hope you had a great time and that you learned something and that it was meaningful and impactful to you as it was for me. So again, thank you to SAB and to the Ohio University Alumni Association for putting this all together. This has been the best homecoming week for me. I said on Monday night that this is my first homecoming week as an alumni, and I was super bummed that this is like all virtual, obviously, and we like didn't get to celebrate in Athens and all these types of things, but I'm so grateful for the just great week I've had with all of you and the events that we've had, and this is a really great way to cap off Alumni Week for me. So thank you all so much. It was awesome getting to know you. Thank you all for coming, and yeah, that is all for our program tonight.